In this video, we're going to be working through the weighted averages activity, the last page of your notes for the Unit 1%, for the Unit 1% activity for Math 154. So, suppose you are told that the grade breakdown for a certain college course is as follows. Homework is worth 15% of your grade. Quizzes are 20%. You have a project, and that's worth 10%. 4 tests sum up to a total of 40%, and your final exam is worth 15%. So we want to write a formula representing our final grade G, which is written here, using H to represent your homework average, Q to represent your quiz average, P to represent your project grade, T to represent your test average, and F to represent your final exam. We want to write a formula that's going to compute what our final grade is for all of these things. So really what we want is, we want 15% of H, because H represents our homework average. What we also really want is 20% of Q. That's our quiz average. We want 20% of that. For our project, we want 10% of that grade. For our tests, we want 40% of that grade, because all of these grades are out of 100, remember. And then for our final exam, we really only want 15% of that. Now, if I want to find my final grade, what am I going to need to do to all of these quantities? What I'm going to need to do is add all of these together. Now, how on earth am I going to compute 15% of H? How am I going to do that? Take a second and see if you can write the formula out now. Well, if I want to compute 15% of H, that's going to be, starting with the decimal, 0.15 times H. And then I'm going to need 20% of our quizzes. So that's 0.2 times Q. 10% of our project. I'm going to need 40% of my tests. I don't need the 0. That's kind of silly now. And then I need 15% of my final grade. I'm sorry, my final exam. And then what I'm going to do is add all of those together. There it is. That's my formula. That's how I would go about computing my final grade. I think you'll find this page of notes to be particularly helpful when you get to your Excel project. All right, so here's my formula again. Now let's suppose I actually have the following grades in each of these categories. What I'm going to do now is compute my final grade. So now what I have, I've got a homework average of 30%, quiz average of 75%, project grade of 90%, 78% for my tests, and 75% for my final exam. Now, let's get rid of the white noise first. First, the percents are actually kind of a distractor here, because what we're saying is out of 100 points, my homework is 30. So what I'm going to say is now, H is equal to 30. Q is equal to 75. P is equal to 90. Not bad. My tests are equal to 78. And my final exam is a 75. So now what I'm going to do here, and all I'm going to do, is I'm just going to plug these numbers in and compute what the final grade is going to end up being. If you don't mind, I'm going to leave you to do the number crunching here, but I just want to show the setup. If you notice, I'm not saying 0.3. I've already got the decimal represented, so I get to now use these as grades out of 100. And I don't need to do any division. It just kind of, I guess it's convenient. So yeah, just take the second and go ahead and plug these in. And what you should get is 70.95%. That's going to be a C. Now, what I need to do here, let's suppose I wanted to end up getting a B. So I want to get a B. My desired grade here is an 80%. So what I'm saying is G is supposed to be equal to 80. Right? So now this is my final grade, but what I want to do here I want to see what my final exam grade has to be. And that's the thing I don't know. So I don't know what my final exam is. I need to figure out what that is. So let's suppose I've got the 80. That's my desired grade. That's my dream grade. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in everything else I do know. My homework is 100%, not bad. But I don't know what my final exam grade is. It's okay though. We'll get there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go ahead and sum all of these up. Take a second and actually compute this number for me. That's 0.15 times 100 plus 0.2 times 60 plus 0.1 times 95 plus 0.4 times 75. Take a second and compute all of that. If you computed all of that correctly, you should have gotten 66.5. So what happens is, the way I get to 80 is I take 66.5 and I'm going to go ahead and add that 0.15 times the final exam grade. And just for aesthetics, I'm going to go ahead and scooch that in. Okay. So I want to get F by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 66.5 from both sides. And after I do that, I get 13.5. And I want to get F by itself, so I go ahead and divide both sides by 0.15. And now what I end up with is that F is equal to 90. Now what does that mean? Well, what that means is in order to get the B as a final grade, I need a 90% on my final exam. Well, what I should say is I'm talking about report cards. That's dumb. We're grown-ups. We don't do that anymore. We don't do report cards. We're past that. In order to get an 80% grade, I need a 90% grade on the final exam. For me, this calculation seems way more practical because, I mean, we always want to know what it takes to get the grade that we want. All right, that does it for the weighted averages activity.